Hi, I have recently recorded a video which I want you to see today, which is as a result of the incredible news that was announced this week in Ireland of a specialist committee to help with the support of new legislation related to surrogacy. This is a huge milestone for those intended parents and children that are in Ireland and for all Irish citizens exploring surrogacy. I hope you enjoy it. Here's the interview. Hi everybody, it's Mike here from my Surrogacy Journey, and I am here today with a very unique update, and one which as soon as I heard that announcement had been made in Ireland, I wanted to speak to two individuals to help give me further clarification, and you're going to enjoy hearing from them today. This is tremendous news, and one that's going to give so much hope to so many intended parents, and so much clarity and just equality for those people building their family through surrogacy in Ireland. And I am thrilled to be joined today by surrogacy solicitor Annette Hickey and Sinead Gallagher Hedderman. Sinead, let me just say hello and huge respect to you, because you have been a very busy woman.
I have indeed, yeah. It's been a huge week for surrogacy in Ireland. Parents, I suppose, across the country have really welcomed the news of a Joint Oireachtas Committee being set up, because the situation, Mike, in Ireland is that we don't have any surrogacy legislation. So this will be the first time that surrogacy legislation will be enacted in the future. So they're setting up this committee for 3 months, with possibility of another month extension. But after that point, we're going to have a situation where our children are going to be protected in Ireland for the first time who were born through surrogacy. So this is just massive for everybody. Huge. And, you know, it's what all of us as parents or, you know, future parents want for our children, our future children. We want the protections there, legislation there to protect all parties. But ultimately, like, this is about our children, and it's given them like equality that they don't actually have right now.
Absolutely. And Annette, if I can just come to you then, and before I want to get into Sinead's story because it's just fascinating. But Annette, from an Irish point of view then, in terms of the landscape with surrogacy, just for those people that might be watching that are brand new, what does it currently look like? And tell us again, remind us of what this proposed committee is going to do.
Okay, so here in Ireland at the moment, we have no surrogacy legislation, as Sinead said, since I think the first commission was set up in 2000, and we've been waiting and hoping for some sort of legislation and regulation from for the last 21 years. 2017, an assisted human reproduction bill was published here in Ireland, but it only provided for domestic surrogacy, and it really appeared then that, is this the kind of situation we were going to be left with, that it was just going to be domestic surrogacy? Then, due to the tremendous hard work of amazing parents and the members of the AHR coalition, but you know, people around the country have been campaigning and speaking out through the last number of years, but particularly the last number of months. Last April was a huge, I think, turning point in the process. Last April, Professor Conor O'Mahony's report was published, and that is the report that was commissioned by our government to look at what way legislation could be brought in to protect the rights and interests of children. The recommendations in that report are absolutely outstanding, and it includes safeguards for all parties. The same month, a certain lady called Sinead Gallagher Hedderman and her amazing husband Mark, their little baby Theo was born in the Ukraine in the middle of mandatory hotel quarantine here in Ireland, and it would have meant that they were bringing their 9-day-old baby home to Ireland to go into hotel quarantine. They wouldn't accept that, and the government, we had to institute proceedings, but the government acceded to the request, and the law was changed. And for the first time in Ireland, the word surrogacy appeared in legislation in a supportive, empathetic way. But that week, the public came behind Sinead and Mark and Theo, and to surrogacy, and people became informed. And after that, Sinead and Mark did kind of, spoke openly about their journey and about their concerns, and other mums and dads around the country. So there became this nationwide movement where couples and people and grandparents started to talk. What last week marks is that we now see the message got through. Our government heard. They heard the people, they heard the concerns. I was at the briefing Friday when Minister for Justice, Helen McEntee, announced the terms of reference for this new committee. And Sinead was there as well. And to hear the way she spoke and her body language and the language showed, to my mind anyway, an absolute acceptance and an understanding this is urgent and it's a priority of our government. Minister McEntee said it's her intention that this committee will be established by the end of this month. It's got 3 months to do its job. It's going to cover, the people in the committee will be from both houses of the Oireachtas, so that then the recommendations should hopefully go quickly through the legislative process. The AHR bill is the number 1 piece of legislation on the spring session for the Department of Health. It's a priority. And it was put to Minister McEntee, when could we see this as law kind of in Ireland? Now, there was no promises, obviously, and there's lots of things that have to kind of come in place to get, so that we will meet that time frame. But I mean, the end of 2022 was mentioned, and she did acknowledge that we can bring forward very quick legislation when we have to. The way I would describe it to people is like the AHR legislation is like a huge steam train. It's pulled in at a station because the surrogacy carriage, it just wasn't there wasn't the right information there. That carriage has got to be fixed within 3 months, maybe a max of 1 month extension. Then that carriage goes on, gets back on the train. The train goes to the finish line, and we want that finish line to be in 2022. And when we hit that finish line, we will hopefully, and I'm really confident and quite, it's been an unbelievable week of hope for so many couples, that we will have so many mums and second dads in Ireland who will be able to be recognised as parents of their children, that we will have couples pursuing surrogacy here in Ireland, that will have clear guidance about where they can pursue this, what agencies, what countries, where it is safe, where the rights and interests of children, surrogate mums and intended parents are important. We as a nation do not, I think, support or want to be involved in the surrogacy practice where words like child trafficking and exploitation of children and surrogate mums. Surrogacy, there are countries, there are agencies. It's not all happy, clappy, that I'm one of those people that goes, it's all wonderful. As a solicitor working in this area, I absolutely welcome the commencement of this committee, and I welcome there being standards and there being guidance for couples. People want to, who are at the end of their journey and where surrogacy is the only option, do not want to be involved, as I said, with countries or agencies where they have any concerns or queries. So last week was a huge day, a huge step forward for Ireland. We might be a little late coming to the stage or kind of addressing this, but we're playing catch up. And it marks us as a country that is progressive, and it's a step forward. So very emotional few days for everybody involved. And I think for people overseas and Irish people in the UK, I'd say to you all, be proud to be Irish. Be very proud after this week.
And when I heard this news, I got excited. Annette, as you well know, I was like, right, this is going to give so much hope and so much clarity. How did you feel, Sinead, when you heard the news that, firstly, the committee, the ministers that are involved, and I think that the language that's being used is really sympathetic and really inclusive. And that is just, it must have been a wonderful thing to see, Sinead.
It really was, because I suppose for everyone, that's involved in surrogacy, we've all read Conor O'Mahony's report, and those terms of reference that they have actually reflect Conor O'Mahony, and that's essentially what us as parents would like to see happen. And for future children and future parents, for them to have Conor O'Mahony is the safest, and it gives the most protection to children and all parties. He's done this on he's the rapporteur for child protection, so he's done this on the best interests of children. So that's at the heart of it. And we've spoken to ministers like for the last number of months, all the different parties, and like we've engaged with them. They've really, really listened to us. And that shows by the terms of reference. If they hadn't listened, it would have been different. So that gives us huge reassurance to know that the ministers have listened. And I suppose we have the lived experience with our children. So I suppose we're living the problems of not having legislation in place, and what we have to face on a daily basis. So it's just hugely reassuring and to know they've listened. And yeah, there doesn't, like Annette said, there has to be a bigger discussion about surrogacy. It's a huge area, and it does need to be discussed properly to ensure safeguards are there for all parties, you know. And I felt like as like when I was looking into surrogacy, you are like a little bit vulnerable. So to have legislation there would be hugely beneficial to future parents, because you don't have, then it stops all the exploitation and the clinics that maybe aren't the best as well, you know. So you're kind of making a better informed decision about where you're going to go, you know. And you're I think not relying on Google or speaking to people, or you know, that needs to stop. We're talking about surrogate welfare, intended parents and children, and that can't keep going on the way it is. So that's why this is so important.
I as a parent through surrogacy myself, and having made mistakes, and having seen other people go through these journeys and not get the right support, or be speaking to the right individuals, or go to the right clinic, doctor, or surrogacy agency, to have some form of mandate or regulation or guidance that can safely support and protect ultimately the welfare of that child, is something that we should all, not only as parents through surrogacy, but as human beings, just welcome this as something which is just going to be so wonderful and so celebrated.
I mean, absolutely, Mike, because you know, as Irish citizens, I think this is a really positive day, because it shows as a government and as a country we're putting children's interests, we're putting you know, human rights, we're putting all of these really essential elements to underpin our legislation, and like this legislation is for our generation, but most particularly it's for future generations. And we've said it, and I've had, you know, throughout as we've been, you know, as campaigning and talking about this, we can't not get this right, because we've got to answer for, like, if we don't push hard enough, if we don't get this right, we're going to have to answer for it. Like, the next generation will be looking, this is the legislation that we're going to leave behind us, and our children and our children's children. So we've got to get this right. I must, like, there is an amazing Assisted Human Reproduction Coalition, number of various groups here in Ireland, but I've got to give a real special shout out, and I hope I don't offend any of the other coalition members, to the Irish Families Through Surrogacy. It's a group, like Sinead is a committee member in the Irish Families Through Surrogacy. It's a group of parents, ordinary parents from all over Ireland, who just said enough is enough. And what they did, these parents contacted politicians in every county in Ireland. They have, like, if you look at their social media, the amount, I don't think it's a case of what politicians did these people not meet. So there's been, and I know there's been all the other groups, I suppose, have also done huge work. I'm probably more aware of what the Irish Families Through Surrogacy have done. But to see the amount of effort and work, and these ordinary people, we're all ordinary people. This is not a what would you say, an issue for a particular part of the community, or a particular if you're a different kind of a social kind of, you know, or different levels of society. But I mean, every county, Sinead, wasn't there? I don't think there was a county left out. I don't think there was a political, there wasn't a political party left out, but our independent TDs, senators, you name it. These mums and dads went to bat. So like, that's why I'm so delighted for all of the various groups, but for all of these parents, like, we had given them hope, and we were just kind of, you know, saying, oh, it's got to be done right. We kept saying the government will get it right, and to have raised people's hope, and then to be able to come through on Friday and say, It's good. It's really good. I mean, like I'd say, Sinead, the amount of people have contacted you saying, "Is this good?" It's just, and it's to be able to say it is.
Yeah, a huge amount of people have contacted me, and you know, some people were like, "Is it good or is it bad news?" And then you'd explain it to them, and you're, you know, because maybe some of them wouldn't be familiar with Conor O'Mahony, so it's trying to put it just into normal terms for them what this actually means. And you know, you explain it to them, and they're like, "Oh my goodness!" Like they just could not believe it, you know. But I think, as Annette said, what's happened in Ireland in the last 12 months is that people are no longer accepting not having legislation there for surrogacy. They're no longer accepting having their children in a vulnerable position. They're no longer accepting that future parents are going to be exploited because the legislation isn't there to protect all parties. Yeah. You know, the time is now, and I'd hope to think, I'd like to think, and I do think actually now, I think Ireland as a society has moved on and we're becoming far more progressive. And I think that reflects in having actually a look at surrogacy and setting up this Joint Oireachtas Committee. I mean, it's to think 12 months ago, there was nothing like this on the table, and where we're actually at now, it's just mind-blowing. And, you know, we do have more work to do with the committee. We do, you know, have to sit down and have a look at all that kind of stuff. But, you know, we're on the right road. We're making positive, I suppose, steps towards that. And, you know, ultimately the goal is now to get this legislation for everybody involved.
What's the next step for you, Sinead, then in all of this process? So what happens next? So,
yeah, so the committee should be announced, I think, in the next 2 weeks. So I suppose it's just finding out who's on the committee, who's going to actually sit on that committee. And then we need to kind of prepare submissions, Mike first. So I suppose the coalition are all meeting on a regular basis, and they'll, you know, do a joint kind of look at it and where we're going to come from our point of view with submissions. And then parents around the country can also put in submissions. And we'll have experts, obviously, that we'd love to attend that. Like Conor O'Mahony, I presume, will be called as a witness. So that's kind of where we're going to be at over the next few months. And obviously, then we're going to still be connecting with all the ministers, the different parties that we have been doing. We'll continue that job. And then the media as well. The media have been hugely influential in what's happened in Ireland. I truly believe if we didn't have the media, that a lot of this wouldn't be happening. You know,
well, I think it's
driving it as well.
The politicians, the media. I think it's representative of society. I have not heard, bar maybe 1, 2 people, anything negative. Everything has been a resounding and an outstanding and just 100% support. But if you're happy and you're excited, Mike, ask this wonderful lady what's coming up for her personally in the next few months, and hold on to your hat. Go on, Sinead. I didn't tell you this, Mike.
Yeah, so Mike, we went through 14 rounds of IVF to have before we had Theo there last year in April, and then we did another round in October, November. But we transferred into me, and I'm pregnant with twins.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're gonna have 3 babies
now.
Sorry.
How many weeks are you now?
14.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Sinead! Congratulations.
Miracles. Yeah. They are.
Miracle. Oh my God.
Dreams do come true. They do come true.
And how's Theo?
He's great. Like, he's 9 months now, so he's trying to walk at the minute. So I don't think I'll get much rest with him anymore.
No rest for you, my friend.
No.
Look, that's just gorgeous news. What a gorgeous way to end this recording. Thank you so much. Thanks for everything that you're doing for parents in Ireland, and for everything that you've done to date. Annette, as always, just a pleasure. And if there's anything that anyone needs to hear about our Irish pathway from My Surrogacy Journey, then just head over to www.mysurrogacyjourney.com, head to the membership section, and there you'll find our Irish intended parents brochure. But for now, ladies, have a wonderful rest of your week. Enjoy your Sunday, and thank you so much for joining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.